I think at the time I would be like around rank 3 or 4 in solo queue. So it's like I would always be first pick. And then, I'd be like, I always get my role and play what I want. And you also had control all the bans back then.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool.
I 100% agree with you.
Man who has all the power says having all the power was good.
Yeah, it was great.
I don't know.
I got to do every ban. I always got my role. I always got my champ. I like.
And I would carry my team.
It was a good system.
I'm sure they liked it too.
Hello and welcome to The Dive, driven by Kia Season 9, episode number 28. Technically, can we get like a half credit for another dive episode this week? Because me and Azale were both on Race the World first.
Yeah. We got 2/3.
Yesterday.
We're missing 1/3 of the dive.
Yeah. And we were just like chatting because Dash is hosting, by the way, Race the World first at Team Liquid. And so we went over to visit him. And then they're like, oh, you should totally like come on and just talk about WoW stuff. And so we like podcasted for the beginning about WoW stuff. And we started with,
Where's my invite?
Yeah, I know. We definitely should have got you in there because we started talking about like that war on add-ons and stuff. The first thing when I got there, I was like, oh man, I renewed and I was ready to log in and like have all my add-ons not working. And then it's like everything is still working on this patch. And they were like, well, basically, they haven't really started the war at all. They're just like, they're prepping the replacements.
I think it's next expansion.
Yeah. They're prepping all the replacements, the assist and the cooldown manager and stuff. But it was fun seeing James and just talking about WoW stuff.
Yeah, those events are super hype. It's like for people who might not know, it's like whenever a new WoW raid comes out, there's like these top guilds from around the world that go completely all in, like 16 plus hours a day, like doing every single thing you can to prepare like tons of characters for it. And then they race against other guilds across the world, like to clear the raid first. It's always like a huge spectacle. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And the difficulty of the raids is hard enough that even the best players in the world with the level of gear, it takes them like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Like 2 weeks ish. They usually clear it on the second week. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it was a cool environment. Like I've watched it before, obviously, but I've never actually gone in person to see. And yeah, I mean, it kind of just gave me like old school LAN party type vibes, right? There's just a ton of people, like all gaming, and they have it set up on the couch, and players are walking by, and they're making food for them there and everything. So they have a really good setup. Definitely credit to Liquid. The setup looked pretty sick, and yeah, it was fun to see James again. Yeah. It's been a while since I hung out with Dash because he moved away after he stopped working on LCS.
Yeah,
so. Definitely was cool to see him working. He's still killing it.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of chess stuff also. I got there a little early and was talking to him about it, and he's really liking the beginnings of the competitive chess stuff. They were doing stuff with like NBA players and then like Tyler 1 and stuff like that. So you should definitely go check out Dash as well. Keep up with him. But you talk about being like a LAN. Mm-hmm. It was like it seems like a very perfect LAN, because the food is super good. They have like private chefs and stuff, and like all the setups are super nice, but it was super crammed in there because they still have the Team Liquid League team like practicing and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we went to go talk to Spawn, obviously they're practicing and getting ready for the lower bracket playoffs because there's a lot more pressure on them right now. But they're like, that facility was so packed with all the WoW people and the broadcasts that they have and all the league stuff going on.
That's sick. Yeah, that's a peak LAN right there.
You should go over. I'm sure they would let you.
I've been to the Liquid facility one time. One of my friends from Seattle was visiting, and like we're in a WoW guild together, and he wanted to raid. So we were like he was friends with like a manager for Liquid, and we raided out of the Liquid facility. And we were like,
that's cool.
We're like, hey, we're like world first raiders right now. So that was pretty cool. So I have been there before, but not all other people were there.
Yeah. It's definitely a good time. There's also been a lot of Twitter action, Twitter drama going on around Pentalus, and him posting about. Initially, it started with him posting about his 40-0 run, and people
platinum from like iron or bronze or something like that. Like, all right, great, buddy. The rank 1 challenger Nunu one trick made 0 to platinum.
He's definitely putting himself in the crosshair with a tweet like that because we talked about it last time, but like I like how Riot is coming out and like going anti-Smurf, because that sucks for people who want to just practice the game, because, for us, we're in the higher end of League players, right? But like, I think about it when I play other games. Like, I'm horrible at a lot of other games. Like, we're mentioning chess earlier. Like, I've been playing chess for years, and I am horrible, and I don't get better. So if I was queuing up for my 800 rated Blitz chess, and I'm getting up against, like, Smurfs who are just going to beat me with no chance, I'd be like,
And
this
against
is a waste
Magnus
of time.
Carlsen.
Yeah, it's like, dude, okay, great. Like, you beat
this
me.
idiot in 30 seconds.
You beat me. I suck. Like, congrats, man. That wasn't fun for me at all. So I totally get it in League, what people don't want to play against Smurfs. And then this guy's like, if you start a new account and you go 40-0, you won't be in plat. You will be like at least probably diamond or higher, because it does do it tries to, like, your MMR fluctuates a lot more in the beginning based on how you do. So it's pretty clear this account was intentionally sandbagged to be lower, because you would not be in plat after going 40-0 otherwise. So I kind of like that he's getting headshot for it, because he put himself in the situation, especially like the way he brought it up, being like, it is true, like, lower rated players probably could focus on the drone clear and do it better, but it's like, dude, you're one of the top challengers, and you're just like punching down saying like these people are bad. It's like, yeah, man, they're not high elo. Like, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, there's so many things wrong with this that, like, okay, we can say what Pentalist's response was, just to, his explanation is, oh, it's an old account and there's this MMR bug, and he was talking about Core JJ's old account that was like from Iron or something, and there's like some MMR bug. Regardless if, that is the case on that specific account, he was also accused of buying accounts, and like they have, multiple accounts linked to his thing or whatever, as far as like buying botted accounts and playing on those. But still, even going back to the original tweet, why are you bragging as a rank 1 challenger player about going 40-0 to platinum in the first place? That is not impressive. Your rank 1 challenger is impressive. You already have the full bragging rights right there. Like, why are you even starting this whole thing? And then to the point of like, then you're also adding insulting those players that you're playing against. Like, that is, where is your head at, that you not only are you bragging about stomping lows, but you're also insulting them? Like, that is crazy stuff.
I think maybe where it could come from, like, not defending what he's doing, but one funny opinion I saw is like, how like Double Lift and Pobelter are doing their like off-rolled challenger series. And a really funny comment I've seen about Pobelter's one is like, when he started his 80 carry thing, he didn't start on a fresh account. He started in like Diamond or whatever. And then people were saying, oh, him having such a good win rate, isn't that impressive because he didn't start in lower elo? They're like, yeah, in Plat and Gold, you have the worst supports ever and you can't win his 80 carry. And I'm like, I think he would still win. Like, I don't think that Obviously, is why he has a good win rate. Yeah. So I guess it's trying to, flex to the lows, being like, yeah, see, like, you can win every game if you're good. But it's like, yeah, dude, no shit, honestly. Like, people who complain about teammates in low elo are usually coping hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's weird because almost everyone agrees that these kind of players smurfing is just bad for the game. But also, the like Iron to Challenger content is some of the most popular content from every streamer that I talk to about it, right? And it's this catch-22 of everyone's like, yeah, you shouldn't do it. That's horrible. And then when they do it, they get more viewers than they ever get. They get more interaction than they ever get. And so it's this kind of like weird loop where they're getting encouraged to do this thing that everyone is saying is bad, but yet people still clearly want to watch it. It's kind of reminds me of Fortnite. When Fortnite first came out and there's no skill-based matchmaking, and it's like you're beating little Timmy who's like got his first computer and is like 6 years old, and they're just getting like 60 kills in a lobby, killing all these people who could barely move their character. And it's like people think that is way more impressive than watching someone win a game, but it's really slow and methodical or whatever because it's top players and you can't play like that.
It looks cool to get a bunch of kills.
Dude, oh my God, Ninja got 40 kills against all these people who are
they're literally 6 years old.
Yeah, the thing is, this is a giga tangent, but I never really understood that one with a battle royale because it's like, isn't that the nature of the game? It's like you just throw people in, and it's way different from League, right? It's like if you don't have skill-based matchmaking in League, that game's going to be awful. But one of the things that I always really appreciate about battle royales is it's like there's no suffering in a battle royale, right? It's like if you suck, you just instantly die and you go again, right? It's like, is that not how it's meant to
Well,
be. The best players are going to win the lobby, and like the best players will meet each other toward the end after all the other people have died.
So the view for me, at least as or if I was taking the position of the designer of the game, and I want everybody to keep playing this game,
have a chance
the majority of the players are going to be less skilled, right? That's just the way that it works, right? You get to the peak, there's going to be way less players. So if I want to design my game for the majority of players, and I want them to keep playing, they're gonna have to like do well in some of their battle royales and like win.
Yeah, you
more.
just hide the whole time and you top place.
That's
It's
really
great.
fun. That's super duper fun. So, anyways, I think like that's the idea. Is like, okay, they're not gonna like do crazy structured MMR, but like having some so that like the bad people like get some lobbies where there's a lot of other bad people where they can actually be like, oh wow, I got far to one of the final circles at least, or something like that. You need to feel that sometimes.
I think the other reality is just that people are not good at evaluating the skill of the games and the players of which they're watching. So that I think is the biggest reason why that kind of content is just so popular, because watching someone go 30-0, that just like feels more insane than watching them win a game against other challenger players.
Oh, definitely.
And they're just like, wow, that's like, because it's just so obvious that, wow, they're owning these guys. They're so much better. You know?
If you're a Riven with 20 kills and you're killing people in like one combo or whatever, it's like you look really skilled, but in reality, like that's actually one thing that for the entirety of League has always kind of like grinded my gears, in that especially like you'll see it somewhat in pro, and obviously not to that extent, but like a really greedy player will almost always look better, right? Because it's like they've played for themselves the entire time. They're always at like a gold lead, a level lead, and they go into these fights and they win. And it's like, that's not necessarily skill. Like you might just be going into most fights with an advantage, which I mean, it is a skill in a sense for League, but yeah, those things always get like kind of conflated of like, this player's really good mechanically, when sometimes it's like, okay, they just had a clear advantage going into the fight, so like they should win either way.
Yeah, I mean it's this case with Pentalist is actually weird, because I did watch his stream, but I watched his stream for the content that is the opposite of what you guys are talking about. I watched when he played on his main and when he is doing his runs, at the beginning of season and stuff, and actually trying to win on his main and get rank 1 challenger. And he's like, Nunu is getting banned out against him, and he's playing like Skarner and stuff. Because I'm looking for the educational side of like what is the actual peak. Yeah. And that's another argument that a lot of the content creators use, is the education. They're like, well, I'm showing other bronze players what you should do if you want to get yourself out of bronze.
I hate that argument. Because it's like, yeah, to get out of bronze, like let's just do this. And it's like, what do you mean? Like you're a top challenger player. Every aspect of your game is 1,000 times better than the bronze players, right? Like that is not good educational content. You can't just be like a top one trick in challenger and be like, just do this, just clear 40 seconds faster than you do, and then know exactly where to be on the map at all times, and then play the team fights 1,000 times better and itemize better, and like understand all the matchups. Like, no, that's nothing.
Dude, that reminds me of like, I was watching this chess series of like a grandmaster who's like going to low elo, like trying to show you how to win, and all of a sudden then he's just like, oh yeah, and there's this like mate in 7 tactic right here. I'm just like, no, I'm never seeing that. Yeah. Nobody's ever seeing that except you, man. Like, don't even bring that up.
Yeah.
But I think, so on the other hand, I do think that one issue that streamers have, which is why they do these climbs, is that high elo queue times are terrible, right? Like, I think the worst thing ever for a stream is like, if you're a League streamer and you're sitting in queue for 20 minutes, like it's so bad, right? It's like nobody wants to watch that. And so I was actually talking with like Double If and Belter about this during our co-stream. And I think it'd be really cool if there were more incentives for people to like play on their mains. Maybe like add, because I think they've like, I don't know if they've
backpack perhaps.
Not necessarily that. Not about ending at a certain rank, because when you have ranked rewards, it almost like disincentivizes people to play, right?
You want to camp on your
you camp at your thing, but maybe there's a certain time period during the day where it's like, okay, there's rewards for queuing and challenger,
there
right?
Could be
it's
monetary rewards.
Yeah, you give we could
call it. I was gonna say
it's gonna be a low ping environment.
What if you just got RP for like winning games in challenger during certain hours of the day, right? So it's like it encourages people to queue up during this time frame, because then they can get more games, right? And it's like
we can call it Clash.
Yeah, dude, that's a good one.
That one actually is so hard to get the other people to join your Clash team or whatever. So
I mean, the idea of Clash is sweet, but like, you know, it's not always working.
No.
Anyway,
No, I mean,
I do think
I
like
hear you.
some incentive to actually get people to queue a challenger would be better because like queue times suck, right? And then the solution for it makes the problem worse because it's like, okay, I don't want to sit in a 20-minute queue, so I'm going to go queue in a lower rated account. And now
So then
everyone's
other
doing
people's
that.
queues
So
are
then-
30 minutes instead of 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I think there has to be some kind of incentive for people to play on their main other than just like, you know,
Yeah.
because there's some people who will be like, yeah, I just want like the most challenge. I want to like improve my peak rank or whatever. And like, that's cool. But most people don't have the patience or time to just sit there forever. So
Yeah.
hopefully something could be done. I don't really have the answer, but I understand why people do it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I totally do too. I mean, I think that it's also just it's a bit of a catch-22. It's such a difficult problem to solve because there's the obvious way, and the way that you speed up queue times is you widen the the band of MMR that can get queued into the same game. Right?
People hate that.
But people hate that. And so then they're like, all right, we don't want any master players in challenger games. Okay, let's tighten that bad boy up. But then there's not enough people playing. So then it's going to be a really long queue. So you can't have it both ways, right? And most games, they simply just like widen that band. And that's just part of the game. And that's how you get faster queues. And any game pretty much that does give really consistently fast queues has a pretty like broad spectrum of players that can be in it. Obviously for League and I think MOBAs in general, it's uniquely frustrating because if you get someone who's like really outclassed, then obviously people can kind of just like feed off of them and then become unbeatable. So, you know, I totally understand why they don't want to do that, but it is a really hard problem to solve, I think, because
there's also the issue of roles, right? It's like with role queue. One thing that I always mention, like, you know, like back in my day, but like I always thought there was like a sort of beauty to the early days of League queue when there was no roles, and it would put you in lobby based on
your MMR.
Your
the
MMR,
highest
So
the
it was
highest rated person.
If you were first pick of the lobby, you were the highest rated person on your team,
and everyone knew it.
Right, exactly. And there was like this somewhat of a hierarchy. It's like, okay, I'm last pick. I'm going to be off roll, but I'm going to get carried, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll play the easiest thing possible and not feed, and it's up to my teammates to carry me. And first pick, it's like, yeah, you know, I get to play what I want, and I'm supposed to carry the game. And so in a way, to me, it felt kind of like there was a little bit more order in the game because of this thing.
The noobs knew who they were.
Exactly. Like if I went to a game and I was last pick, but then there would also be, you know, if you were, I think at the time I would be like around rank 3 or 4 in solo queue. So it's like I would always be first pick. And then, you know, it'd be like, yeah, I always get my role and play what I want. And you also had controlled all the bands back then.
Yeah.
So I thought it was cool.
I 100% agree with you.
Man who has all the power says having all the power was good.
Yeah, it was great.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
got to do every band. I always got my role. I always got my champ. I like.
And I would
it. Was a
carry
good.
my
It was a
team.
good system.
I'm sure they liked it too.
But at the beginning, you had to climb your way up there. And honestly, it didn't, like, it felt good. It was a social contract that everyone adhered to, and you know, and it was also respectful. And people, you would like ask the person at the top, oh, can I have my role? And like sometimes the person would be like really good at multiple roles, and they'd be like, okay, sure, you can have this, and that felt good too. It was like, here's your gift, you little scrub. Now I'm gonna allow you to.
I'm fine on agreeing that it was like that. You guys loved it, but to say that it always like people always adhered to is crazy. Because I remember like having so many games where people would just be like third pick or whatever, and they're just like, that's literally where the like mid or feed type stuff came from. They're just
There were
like,
problems with it.
they're just like, nope, I'm going mid lane, and it's like, what do you mean? I'm first pick. Like I'm playing mid this game. They're like, nope, I'm locking mid lane anyway. You know, and you're
I
like,
hear you.
okay,
That
that's
did
why
happen.
that went away.
Okay, yeah, that did happen. I will say
And
though, like
way more at lower elo.
Toward the end of the run, though, before they added roll queue, Riot like finally made a stance saying that like pick order
matters. Yeah,
Yeah,
they made
like,
it official.
it does matter because they never officially said it. And nowadays, with like champion select reports, it's like there probably could be something to be done about it. But yeah, there was the issue of people just auto locking. But you could still argue nowadays. You could still do that, right? Even if you're assigned bot lane, you say, no, I'm going mid. I don't.
Well,
care.
you can't. You get lane swap detected.
No, I mean people do the hostage in your lobby, and then they try and wait till the last second to have the chicken, who's gonna dodge at the end. So like, I feel like maybe lobby hostaging has gone down.
It's way less common.
It has gone down a little bit,
I think.
but there's still people that are stubborn like that. Regardless, I was gonna say, because we're remembering all the way back to like literal season 1, there's probably some of that rose tinted glasses and memory stuff. But as soon as he started talking, I was like, you know what? That did feel good. I did that like that. Back on the original solution of like what to do now, though, I always thought that they could implement a check that you could check yourself, as far as, hey, I am a challenger player, and if you click this, you're opting into, I'm fine with widening the skill band and there being, master players or whatever, increasing the range of players in order to get my trade-off of getting a faster queue. That is probably way too complicated for the League of Legends client as it is at the moment or something. So I don't like the actual technical implementation of that is probably really difficult, of like some people opting in, some people not opting in. Yeah. And like maybe it even like makes the problem worse somehow. But I always thought that like even if it was a placebo, if there was this option thing, then people would feel better about it, because you always feel better about something that you're opting into and that you're taking control of. Mm-hmm. So I feel like things like that, if there is a way to implement, hey, I'm opting into, it being this way, or, something about the roles as well, you can opt into this way. At least it would feel better for players, because you kind of, even if it's a placebo, if you actually get that autonomy.
Yeah, this was another thing we talked about, but I also think it would feel less bad because I think what happens too is, like, say you're like the rank 1 challenger game, you're queuing at non-peak hours and you get like some master lobby, you lose so much LP if you lose, right? Because you're playing against masters, and it's like, maybe you had an autofilled support playing top and they fed the enemy Darius 30 kills and there was nothing you could do this game. And then you lose like 30 LP for it. It's like, wow, that felt legit awful. Because you'd also, if you won, you'd get like 9 or something. So that's terrible. But I do think that like if they, I don't have the answer. But if they made it so it's like you don't lose as much when you're in these really imbalanced lobbies, it would feel way better.
At one point, WoW did that, and then people discovered it and hard abused it. So basically, there was a point in WoW Arena MMR where essentially, if you were higher rated than your teammates that you were queuing with, it would say if you won, you're carrying them, so you deserve LP basically, and if you lose, it's the noob's fault, so you're not losing as much. And so people would intentionally queue with lower rated players and on off peak hours, and basically it made it so they like never could lose LP. Like it ended up being a really, really abusable system. So I would be worried.
I mean, there's no duo in Challenger, so I don't know if that exactly
if you queue off.
Also, I don't know, why would they ever give you bonus LP? I feel like the winning
carrying the noobs.
Yeah, but if you're in a low lobby, if your opponents are also low, you're in a low lobby.
Yeah,
like the reward should also be low if.
Any system is going to have trade-offs, right? Like there's no perfect. It's all about, it's just like what trade-offs are worth it, what feels the most fair to people, while also, because for me, I think it's just get people in game. That's my thing, right? It's like I can accept autofill, I can accept a little bit broader range, but like the things that I hate is like dodges and all that, like,
and trolls. Obviously,
champ select should just be way faster. I feel like that's a big.
I think it should be way faster, and I think if you dodge, especially, I think if you insta dodge a champ select, like, oh, I don't have time to play right now. It's like maybe the penalty's not that big, but like if you dodge the last second of a champ select,
ramping
like,
penalties,
that should just be a loss, man. It's like how is it any different than just like leaving the game and giving a remake? It's like you're wasting everybody's time, and I've honestly been confused how it doesn't feel like that's the general. Like it almost feels like that's a hot take. Because most people that I hear from the community are like, no, like dodging is a good solution. Like, I don't want to lose if my draft looks bad. I'm like, okay, yeah, but you're just adding hours and days and years to the amount of time that people globally are not playing the game. It's like, let's just get people in game more. So I would like dodging to be less prevalent for sure.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing is an interesting discussion. And to circle back, I guess the last thing I'll say is I think the whole Pentalist, getting suspended, whatever thing makes sense as long as it is not just performative to just like headshot one player who tweeted about it, and it's going to be like, this is our stance, and we're going to, make this standard. If you're playing on other accounts, if you're downranking, if you're challenger smurfing in low,
if you're buying accounts,
like all this type of stuff, as long as it's consistent, then you're getting headshot everywhere. Then I think that's fair, right? Then people have to adapt to whatever the changes are. We just had a pretty crazy weekend this last week. Obviously, we had our two perceived top teams, both C9 and FlyQuest, were playing.
You got to add the perceived in there. That's
and
crazy.
people were coming in thinking it was going to be a couple of 3-0s. But Shopify had some other ideas. They pulled off the upset against Cloud9. It was a 3-2 series. A lot to talk about there, but start us off because it's pretty crazy that not only did Cloud9 get challenged, they actually lost, and they were the ones who got to pick their opponent.
Yeah, I mean, definitely surprising to say the least. But I mean, as Jack has said, the Energy, CLG, whatever, they're the team that will just randomly beat C9 periodically. Somehow they just do it. And yeah, I mean, this one felt really weird to watch. It didn't feel like C9 was playing to the level that you'd expect, or maybe just like the Shopify was the first team that was strong enough to actually properly punish them, because I do think this year, watching C9, they have had kind of almost like a chaotic play style to them where they're obviously all really, really good individual players, and a lot of times they win games through just like hands checking their opponents. But one thing I've also noticed is that especially around objective fights, they look really uncoordinated. It seems like they're usually very spread and they have different ideas, and someone's going in while someone else is not ready for it. And we kind of saw that this series. So I do think that's something that, is a little concerning for them. And it's also a really hard issue to fix, because it's like, it's easy to say, oh, we're not on the same page. Let's just be on the same page. But it's like,
Yeah.
they're not like, all right, guys, Dragon's coming up. Everyone do your own thing.
The thing
Dragon's coming up, unplug the microphone.
Headsets off.
The specific thing that I keep seeing over and over, and why I think it does happen a lot, specifically against Contracts and Palafox, like, because when Jack is like traumatized and he's talking about, oh my god, these guys always upset us, it's like it's always these teams that have Contracts and Palafox on it, the CLG and Energy and Shopify teams, is because so a lot of these approaches, and it happens in Dragons, it happens in Grubs, it happens a lot. Cloud9, I think one of the specific things they let their opponents do too much is get the free approach. Like, they don't control, like they get their setup and they're like on the Grubs or they're on whatever objective or something, but they always leave open a couple of different like pockets of fog of war for your opponents to just free approach from. And I feel like that is the biggest like step that they're missing in their objective setups, and Contracts is like the perfect type of player to take advantage of that, because he always is looking for that angle. He's always looking for an aggressive engage or some surprise pick later, like even when they're down super behind in a game, late game or something like that, like him and Palafox are always looking for that like comeback, surprise, gank angle, instead of like going to where you suspect them to be, like where would be the perceived correct position. And so I feel like that it's kind of like a very good matchup where Contracts is always looking for that aggressive angle and start, and Cloud9 oftentimes do leave open and approach for their opponents. But in this specific series, I also think Shopify had better drafting. They had a lot of good setups for themselves for like team fights for ways to win later. And it's kind of funny. We were talking at the beginning of the episode. We went to Team Liquid and we were talking to Spawn a little bit after the Race to World first stuff. And I asked him if I could repeat this, but one little clip of one of the things he said, he was like, yeah, we think of Cloud9 as like a team with like 10 strength stat, but like 4 wisdom, or like a pretty low
4 intellect, 4
like
wisdom,
stuff like that too. And I saw like that little clip was pretty funny, and I think that's kind of true. With how they have been playing, where like their laners are pretty strong. Especially their solo laners are really strong, and they do a lot of like really good of the straightforward gameplay and setup. And actually, multiple of our pros, individuals talk about it on the podcast. We're like, oh yeah, that's kind of the difference between FlyQuest and Cloud9. It's like FlyQuest are like more creative, Cloud9's a lot more straightforward in it. So yeah, I mean, maybe that is one of the issues, and see if they can hammer it out and fix it in in the lower bracket because now the mega pressure is on with Cloud9 being down there.
It's funny that it does feel like over the years drafting something that like continually will sneak up on Cloud9 during playoffs, because Cloud9 always has like this interesting issue where I think they do really well in scrims, like because you said their individual strength is so high that, you know, there's always going to be a huge difference between scrims and stage play, which, you know, people say this over and over again, but usually the big difference is that like if you can hands check people, that's going to be great in scrims, because my explanation for the difference is like in scrims, if you don't know if a play is going to work, you'll go for it. On stage, if you don't know if it's going to work, you won't go for it, right? So a lot of times the enemies are probably just taking bad fights and C9's winning and then snowballing games through that. But on stage, they're not really getting these like huge leads because the other team might like concede a little bit. And like you said, I do think the analysis of like they aren't expecting the other team to contest them and then they get contested and so they're a little uncoordinated. I think that is actually pretty accurate now I think about it. I hadn't thought about it that way. But yeah, I don't know. I guess they just have to have like more of a game plan. Like I've always loved conditional statements where it's like, you know, if they walk here, we're going to go, right? Or it's like, you know, watch me, I'm going to look for a flank kind of thing. But it doesn't, I don't know if there's a whole lot of that going on with the team. And it's like, you know, maybe they'll just be on an objective, think the other team's not coming, then they show up and they're like, you know, oh God.
Wait, what was our plan B?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely way more than one thing, obviously. And it is interesting because I mentioned this prior, you know, that people feel like, oh, Contracts is this really good matchup against Blabber. Because going into that series all time, he was 12-25 against Blabber. So it's like Blabber has obviously dominated that head-to-head, has been on better teams. But there is that feeling of like the unpredictability about Contracts that, you know, he can make things happen. And when I look at this series, it's weird because if you watch, I could show you a couple of these games and you think, wow, Cloud9 is 1,000 times better, right? If you watch game 1 and game 4, you're like, this series isn't even close. They absolutely stomped them. And then you have game 3 where I feel like it's the other way, where it looks completely hopeless for C9. I feel like they got super headshot in draft. I thought game 3 was just, even in isolation, I thought C9's draft was horrible. I really struggle to think about what comp this 2-threat Yone Ziggs team is supposed to be good against. Is definitely not what they were playing against. And I thought that remember I was on the desk and we were doing this thing of like you can once per week like try to like predict the upset and use your call on the upset. As soon as I saw this draft, like instantly I'm like, that they're losing this game. There's just no way you are winning with a 2-threat team when the Yone has to lane into a Casio, so you're getting miasma'd, you can't actually snap back. You go in, you get silenced by Cho'Gath, ulted by Vi, miasma and stun and stuff from the Casio, charmed up and ulted from the Rakan, and it's like, you cannot play. So Sven on the Ziggs is supposed to solo their whole team, including this tank Cho'Gath? Like, what is this draft? That felt completely unplayable. Game 5 was pretty competitive back and forth, but I again thought that Shopify had a better draft and played better, so like they were in a strong position. But it was just such an interesting series because so many of the games were so different. It's like game 1, Cloud9 comes out and stomps them. Okay, everything's going as expected. Game 2, 3.5K lead, and then that game to me was way more misplay than outplay. That was like Cloud9 with some monster throws. Meteos and I, before you came in, we were watching this back. The Otacon fight in that game was crazy. Like that was, you want to talk about not being on the same page. They're all doing different things. Fudge is TPing in on the tri-brush behind them, and Blabber's like, okay, let's turn on him. So he goes in and he EQs and knocks him up as he arrives, but then the 3 members of his team, like his bot lane and his mid laners, all run to around the side, down towards bot lane, and Thanatos is running up, marking another TP, attacking Palafox way down the lane. It's like they're all on a completely different page. Blabber dies for free, then they get Baron, and even with that, they're still in a lead. Then they go to, do we have this play mid lane where they're, I think it was the catch onto Sven was what preempted it. And he had just like valked to mid lane to get back to the minions faster, which is obviously kind of a lazy play or a greedy play, whatever you want to call it. He gets ulted by Sion and killed. Then they go there and they contest it in a 4v5. They get them off. But then they're super split on their calls even at the Baron. And like Loki's still chasing. Palafox had gotten out. He TP's back. They all die. They lose Baron. Then that game becomes in Shopify's control. So it's like, they had 2 games where they super stomped Shopify, 2 games where I felt like they got outplayed and outdrafted, and then one where they looked like they were going to just stomp them again and then monster through. So it's kind of like a weird series when you watch the games in isolation because they all feel so differently. And so for me, it's hard to just point to one thing and be like, well, it's this. Because I saw a lot of people being like, yep, it's Blabber's fault. Blabber sucks. And that's why Cloud9 did bad. I saw a lot of that on social media. But Blabber also had some really dominant games. Like his Trundle game, I felt like he was like 1v9. So it's hard to just
that
kind of
Trundle
point out
game
one
was
thing.
crazy because it started with the level 2 gank bottom, which went horribly, right? It was like I actually did a podcast with Anero and Vulcan right after the games, and obviously they weren't feeling great about it, and we were just talking about some of the games, and apparently Sven accidentally skilled W level 1 in that Senna Braum game when they were looking for the level 2 gank instead of Q, which is like, it's good for the gank, but not good for anything else, right? It's like you kind of want Q on Senna level 1 to be able to trade at all. And so like they try the level 2 gank bot, it doesn't work. And then Blabber's probably going to be like, he should be really behind for that. But then Contracts does 3 camps on Sedge, invades Raptors, and smites it and doesn't get it. So he basically just used his lead to full leash a camp for Blabber, and then Blabber just got back in the game and was complete even. And then Fudge also was just completely wilding that game. I don't know if it was just like, got too excited, they had some momentum, but like he was just making like the most bizarre plays ever and just giving Thanatos a completely free lane. So
I talked to the other side, by the way, about that Trundle game at the beginning because I talked to Contracts.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know why I went to even go to the Raptors anyways and like try and flip it there. He was like, I had an easy path to counter jungle his other side since since the Trundle was so delayed. And he's like, yeah, I messed up the smite, but I shouldn't have even gone there to mess up the smite. I should have just counter jungled his other side, and then he would for sure, have a camp lead. And so I think he realized also after messing up his chicken seal, because after that, Blabber then like was fully recovered from having spent time to go do a level 2 gank. Like you said, not only did Contracts like smite for him and give him the extra damage, but he also wasted all of his time walking over there and then walking back to do it. And so that like fully course corrected. So then Blabber could like re-gank bottom side a whole bunch.
Yeah, I mean that's always the worst feeling thing as a jungler when it's like you could have just full cleared, like completely autopiloted the game and had a huge lead because the other guy did some crazy stuff, but you're trying to get creative, punish his mistake, and then you just make it that much worse. So not ideal. Feels pretty bad for him, but it does happen.
Yeah, the Rek'Sai I know was another big talking point for a lot of people on the Cloud9 side because some people obviously think Rek'Sai made sense there. Some people thought it was horrible. I guess to me it was like they felt that they wanted an AD jungler here. And obviously a lot were already out because we were in game 5 and they were pretty popular. And then Olaf and Nocturne both got banned. I was thinking he was maybe going to like play Viego or something if he wanted to play an AD jungler. But he ended up going Rek'Sai. There wasn't really much left in the pool. But to me, this game was not really about like the fact that he was playing Rek'Sai. A lot of the early stuff just went so bad for them. Like that dive bot was super mismanaged, and B-Boy and Sales just kind of outplayed it easily.
It was such a huge mess because I got pretty excited seeing Rek'Sai because she's been one of my longtime mains, and this was the patch where they gave Rek'Sai 4 more base AD. So the win rate's gone up a little bit. I still don't think Rek'Sai is that good right now, but yeah, I mean, just the early game was so bad. It was people are talking about the comp, and I actually think C9 had like a pretty decent comp. I talked to Anero about it because he like runs Strathing for C9 most of the time, and basically it was like game 5. There was, I think it was like the trade was Xin Zhao and Nico, and then like Annie Rise was just going to be a trade, and so they like Shopify took Xin Zhao, so they get Nico, and then it's going to be a bad jungle matchup no matter what. Like you just figure it out, and so they took Rek'Sai. But yeah, there's that level 3 dive. The fact that the last tick of red buff got Blabber tower aggro when they were trying to like.
Well, he also walked onto Chompers and didn't flash.
Yeah, because I think it was a 100% fact that they didn't think he was going to get tower aggro there. Like they dropped aggro right. Normally that's a normal thing for a dive, right? It's like you start the dive. If you can't one-shot them, you just chunk them back out and then do it again. But the red buff got him aggro again, and then because the tower was already ramped, it just like 2-shot him, and he could have flashed the Chompers, got out, but it was just like it happened so fast. They didn't expect the tower to start shooting him like that. So it was terrible. Thanatos also got solo killed by Fudge, who had like Fudge's solo kill was pretty insane. It was like he hits the Q1, the Q2, and then he kind of like backstepped because it's always the mind game with Aatrox Q3. Right? It's like, is he going to flash it? And so he backstepped to make him think he wasn't going to go for it, went for it, and then as he like the Q3 gives him his passive again, which gives him like perfect damage to kill Thanatos. So it was just really well played stuff. And yeah, dude, that Rek'Sai looked so useless. That was like the craziest useless Rek'Sai game of all time.
So obviously this one had a lot to do with play, but I also thought that this was another failed draft because to me, the Yorick ban should 100% be replaced by a Xin ban. I think the biggest blunder is like, because you're talking like, oh yeah, well, we're going to have to figure it out, and there's, we'll have to be in like the Rek'Sai tier of champions. I think that's okay if you're actually in the Rek'Sai tier of champions and you're not giving over Xin, which is like mega, like prime.
Xin could be a good game tier. 1 pick.
That could be a really good game 1 pick.
Well, if you ban Xin, then they just first pick Nico, and what do you get?
I mean,
I guess you're just playing.
I think that's giving up.
That's still viewed as unfavorable.
I feel like that's giving up a lot less than giving up a Xin matchup. Nico to me is less like I'm giving up way less priority after the nerfs. Like it's still good, but I don't know. I would rather play into a Nico than play into a Xin and then have to be like a Viego or Rek'Sai or something.
I think that's a fair way to look at it, but I could see the other way too. I think that like Nico has looked really insane in a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean,
considered quite a good.
Vulcan did have some quite good Nico games. I guess if you're really prioritizing that half of the trade,
because the thing with Xin is he's a champion he's pretty. Polarizing as far as how he does in the game, right? Like we've seen a lot of people just run it down on Xin. You know, even Inspired, probably the best jungler right now. He'll have a lot of games on Xin where he looks like he's having a terrible time, right? It's like this champion is very susceptible to getting caught. And I truly think that this game would have looked completely different because the bot play should have been C9 favored, but instead they just gave, I think, Jinx like a
Jinx
red
even
buff.
got the kill.
Yeah, Jinx got a kill and a red buff.
And then you get no advantage from Nico because their bot lane's ahead now too.
Yeah, exactly. And then like Thanatos is getting solo killed as Gnar and Aatrox. I think that if this game went somewhat according to script, or at least according to how C9 wanted to play, the idea kind of works, right? It's like you have Ryze Gnar, huge side lane pressure. Shopify doesn't have very good side laning champions, and so they would just be like perma grouping, trying to force something, and then you have like, Kai'Sa, Nico, Rek'Sai, who are like, just going to be running around, like starting random skirmishes, being annoying. So I don't think it was an unplayable draft, but obviously like, when your bot play fails, your top laner gets solo killed, right, the game just goes horrible right from the get-go, then like,
obviously this was all play, but I did think that this was a Shopify win in draft as well. Yeah. Because I think, even if you are going to go this strat for Cloud9, it's harder to execute than Annie, Leona engaged Jinx comp for like 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that for
sure. Yeah,
it is a lot harder. And I mean, once they got behind early, I didn't feel like they really had any chances in this game. I mean, unless Bvoy just positioned really poorly and like got picked or something, it didn't seem like they were going to have much of an opportunity. And Bvoy played it really well. Shopify, I think, it definitely deserves a lot of credit. I mean, it's cool to see that they were able to upset. And now the question to me is, like, what does this mean going forward, right? Like, is there a lot of teams that can challenge teams at the top, or is it just like a blip on the radar? Can they challenge FlyQuest and stuff now? Because they're going to have another really big test. And on pros, there was no C9 members on it, but there was the 2 FlyQuest bot laners as well as Seos. And they were talking about how, I mean, I think Busio always kind of says this, but he's like, maybe there was a top 2 before, but he was basically saying, like, I think anyone can lose to anyone. Like, we could lose to anyone, that kind of thing. And a lot of people have been mentioning they think Lion has gotten a lot better. Team Liquid is kind of more shaky, but it's like if Shopify is doing better, if Lion is better, if we don't know how C9 is, it makes it way more unpredictable going forward, right? Because there's only 3 teams that even get to go to LTA playoffs from the North. So you have to get into that top 3, and now already you have Lion, TL, C9, you have 100 Thieves, you have all these teams that are in the lower bracket, and there's not a lot of spots.
To answer your question, I would say what it does is it makes our lower bracket banger. I think all these matchups are going to be so fun to watch now. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's still going to expect Shopify to lose to FlyQuest in the upper bracket, but I think the lower bracket is going to be so exciting now for our playoffs. So definitely looking forward to the coming weeks, building this up.
Oh yeah, I mean it's so hard to predict all these things too, because I think in BO1s, BO3s, whatever, with the beginning of the split being BO3, it's like we saw a lot of the same champions being picked most of the games, right? It was like most series were 2 games, and it was like you'd see roughly like the same like 15, 20 champions in those games. But when it's BO5, you actually have to be able to win with a lot of different stuff, and it's a lot more likely that a team will just have like a completely horrible draft. Like, something just went wrong with their planning, because it's, I don't know, there's only so much you can plan for when there's like, okay, going to game 4 draft, like 30 champions are banned, they have first pick. There's all these like, matchups you want to avoid, and you want to make sure your team comp's okay. And then you just like end up with a mess, and you're like, oops, that wasn't good. So it can happen,
One thing I wanted to ask you, did you guys talk about on that, because you said you had Vulcan and Arrow, right? Did you ask him, or was there any talk about like why he didn't actually just use the cannon minion trick to tank the tower on that dive? Because it was on a cannon wave, and I find it so shocking how rare it is that people actually do that. You're almost invincible to the tower. It's insane. You can EQ and then instantly go in a cannon, and you tank between like 8 and 10 tower shots.
No, I didn't ask that, but that is.
And it was on a cannon wave. So it's like, even with the mess ups, the dive is indefensible if you do that, because you can literally sit there and tank 8 to 10 tower shots while Blabber and Sven just walk out of the tower and kill them, right? And it's like, even with all that stuff going wrong, Bivoy and Seo still both had like 200 health each max. So to me, it was like there was all the mess up of like the mechanics of it. But when I was watching that, I was like, why did he not just actually take his cannon and turn into a cannon on that dive? And I felt like it was a guaranteed play if they do that. But Nico players just so rarely do it. And every time they do, it's so overpowered. Like, it's insane to me that you can be level 3 and take 8 to 10 tower shots.
Is it really 8 to 10?
Yes.
Jesus. At level 3?
Yep. I can probably even find a video, because I remember I was having this conversation last week, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm exaggerating, and we found a video of the trick, and it was in that range. I can even.
And
find
it was at level 3. Oh my god!
And this was at level 1. It was at level 1. The guy was able to take like 8 to 10 tower shots. I can't remember exactly how many it was, but it was in that range. Okay. Because you get the siege minion passive.
Yeah. No, I understand. I know how it works and everything. And APA talks about a lot of the Nico tricks.
Has some weird interactions.
APA actually did a good little short video on all the Nico tricks, because he uses them for lane also. To like negate people's runes that are specifically only work on champions. And like quickly change into a minion for just even a trade, so that you're like not activating runes or items that only activate on hitting champions.
You can also do crazy stuff like, against Leona, if she throws her E at you and you transform into a minion.
It misses.
Things that only hit champions.
Exactly.
You if you're a minion.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, she's got some, I don't know, a lot of people don't like this champion because she's so weird.
I'm one of them.
Dive trick, though, to me, I'm just so surprised. I think you're right. With Nico being so popular in pro play for quite a while, I'm like, why are people not doing this dive more often, right? Where you just take a cannon minion. It's how are you supposed to defend yourself? The jungler and the ADC are just hitting you for like 8 to 10 seconds while the Nico tanks it.
Especially because most lanes, you're going to be chunked out from laning against Nico and whatever AD carry, and so you should be lower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
unless it got
I'm
patched tonight, and I haven't been informed about that, but I don't know. Yeah, it was just something.
A good question.
I'd be interested to know his thoughts on it, because it's one of those things where it's like, it reminds me of like what you were saying with contracts, where contracts is like, I messed up this mechanical thing, but it shouldn't have even been about that. That's how I felt about the dive, right? I'm like, shouldn't have even been a hard dive. You just should have been a cannon.
Yeah. Usually when I'm interviewing someone right after a loss, I'm not going to like, hey man, why didn't you do this thing? Like,
of course.
Did you not want to win?
I just didn't know.
Did you feel good losing that?
Are you stupid?
First off, are you an idiot?
Yeah, not usually where I go right away with it, but I think it is a good
Secondly,
question.
was it match fixing? No, I just didn't know if it came up, right? Because it's just something I don't hear people talk about a lot with Nico support, but I think is giga OP for tanking dives. But yeah, Shopify deserving of a ton of credit. Definitely definitely really surprised me. I predicted that they would win that one game after I saw the draft, but going into it, I thought it was going to be a 3-0 for Cloud9. I think most people did. Yeah. I think the entire desk predicted C9, obviously. Emily gave them one game. I think that was the most anyone, at least that was on the desk that day, predicted. So definitely a cool upset for them. And now I'm excited to see, can they actually keep the ball rolling and find some openings against FlyQuest? Because FlyQuest has clearly been the number one team, even though there was a top two. I've always felt that the flexibility of FlyQuest has kind of like set them above. And
yeah, going before we go on to FlyQuest, like I was talking to Jack and he was saying like, scrims are going really well, and now I'm starting to always get really worried when I hear that. 'Cause it's like, I think that C9 might have that rare problem of just like winning too many scrims. So I almost wonder if they should just like go into scrims and sandbag harder, like not spend all their gold, like go into fights when they're weaker, like draft some horrible team comps. Just so it's like you have to get a little creative. You got to play smart to win. You can't just brute force it. But I don't know. I'm hoping they have a good lower bracket run, obviously, but it is interesting that they do seem to have that issue recurring where it's like, like they win all their scrims too much, so that then like they don't always have the perfect
Energy
read
was
on
the opposite. Remember when before they beat G2, everyone was saying they were like 0 and 100 in scrims.
I just want to say that's why I like that we have Shopify and like in the league, and we can have this storyline with this type of team, because it's such an emotional roller coaster. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, you're so bad. Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that?" And then they have this high potential to have upsets.
Almost losing to DSG and Dig, beating Cloud9.
Then we bring up the storyline and like, that's a cheesy storyline. What do you mean? That happened one time or whatever. That happened, blah blah blah. And then they come back and they do get some series like this. So. Definitely. I just really like watching games like that. I also like watching really good, when both teams are like perfect and everything. Mm-hmm. But, as we're League of Legends players ourselves, and we live through a lot of games that are not perfect, and they are emotional roller coasters, and sometimes you need a little bit of that in your life.
It was fun. Shopify players played really well. I think their drafting definitely was a big difference too, so credit to them.
Yeah.
We also had a FlyQuest versus Team Liquid. It was a 3-0. Definitely, if you tuned in partway through the Singed game, you were not thinking it was going to be a 3-0 as there was a monster lead. It was a fun series overall. FlyQuest definitely looked, I think, pretty. I don't know. I want to say like tiers above. They looked clearly in control. Even the Singed game that it looked like they were gonna lose. At first they were way ahead. But overall, I think
red side Singed. His lead wasn't real, unfortunately, because that was a funny one where Inspired was doing like the super aggressive Xinjiao stuff, which I really like to see. I think that's
cool.
I think that if you're playing against a jungler who's newer to competitive, especially someone who comes from solo queue, that's a really good way to play against him. Is like, you throw him off the rhythm, don't let him full clear, don't let him be like as strong as he wants to be, because when you do that kind of stuff, like a level 3 invade like that, you're basically just agreeing, especially when it's like a prolonged standoff sort of thing that we saw. It's like, okay, both of us are just going to be weak this game, right? It's like we're not full clearing, we're going to be down in levels for the whole game. And the more experienced junglers can pull it off because like they understand how to play from that spot. So I thought it was really cool. And then Bwipo started with like 3-0 advantage. Impact
and
somehow randomly solo killed him afterwards. That game was awesome. That was like one of my favorite pro games I've seen in a long time, because it was just such a bloodbath the entire game. Like both teams were just throwing bodies. Like it was like more than a kill per minute I think it ended with more than a kill per minute, and
33-26 in a 41-minute game.
Yeah, and a lot of that was early too. So it was just and there were so many times where it was like, FlyQuest went for the Nexus, they all died, like Liquid, because dude, I thought after this game, this must have been true torture for the Liquid players, because it was like so many times they thought they were going to win. It's like, you had a terrible early game. You're coming back. The game's in your hand. Oh, you threw. Oh, we survived their Nexus push. Like, we can win this. And then it just didn't go their way. They ended up losing. And so that must have, like, I don't know. I think going into game 3, they probably were, like, pretty mentally defeated, just because that was just such a painful way to lose.
TL definitely didn't enjoy it. This was another one of those ones, like you're saying, I enjoyed the roller coaster of it. And so I really enjoyed this game, but they definitely didn't. we were talking about it last week, and I was like, oh man, TL versus Cloud9, that series was actually so close. You know, even though they lost, like they had the game where Jan was 3K gold individually ahead, and then APA had a Mega Ziggs game, and he was so far ahead, but they couldn't win. And if they can't win with that, then how are they going to win? And then this one is another Mega
13, 4, and 13.
This Ziggs is so far ahead. It's another like, oh my God, APA Ziggs, and he's crushing it, and he's so far ahead, and they can't win. TL, as a team, they had 7,111 gold lead, and FlyQuest win this game. And the biggest lead all game long that FlyQuest had is 887 gold. It's when they got the Singe triple kill, it was only like 500 gold lead. And by the end of the game, they have like an 800 gold lead. And FlyQuest win this game. And TL were sitting up there with thousands and thousands and thousands of gold of advantage.
And wasn't the AP like 5K of it or something ridiculous?
Yeah, it was actually crazy. These bombs, like a Q was half of someone's life. You know, it was that was crazy for TL to lose that and have to go into the lower bracket. I mean, we went to the facility and like,
dude,
you know, saw that after. But
that game too. One thing that watching, I was getting so tilted at. Did you see what Quad did with his gold after they got the Nexus close? So TL had that one fight in FlyQuest Red Side Jungle where they gave up 2 1K bounties to Quad, and it was so reportable what Quad did with the gold. He bought a Lichbane because they were going to try to go for the Nexus end. They weren't able to get it. So then he recalls and sells his Lichbane for a needlessly large rod. And I'm just like, dude, what? You just got 2,000 gold worth of bounties and you do that with it? Like,
that is crazy.
What is that? Because, you know, he didn't have a Void Staff the whole game. And even if Lichbane's, I don't think it's a particularly good item on Talia, but I think it's better than selling it for a large rod, which is just strictly worse in every single way, shape, and form. And so when I saw it, I was just like, dude, you're like feeding your brain out the whole game. You finally get the shutdowns. You know, Masu probably would have done more with it. And then you do that with your gold. I was so tilted watching that.
That's like one of your friends that you know is just so bad with money. And as they like, you know, win some a lottery or like some like cash in on like some like a minor, you know, gambling win or something. And then they're instantly broke again the next day. You see them and they're like, whoa, we're going to the club. Party's on me. And I'm like, you just got one like gambling win. What are you doing?
It was the craziest thing I've seen in a while.
That series was, I mean, game 2 is definitely by far the most fun, right? Like the craziest thing about that invade from Inspire to me was it started by him going in and smiting away the wolves, but Yuji hadn't used his smite. So I was like, oh, well, Yuji will just be able to probably get the next camp, right? But Inspired stayed around and kept harassing him for so long that his smite came back up and then he stole the blue as well. And then that's when it was like, okay, now we have to have this full out brawl, right? And then Bubbo has this counter matchup. He picks the Singe into the Gwen, which is like really supposed to be a very good matchup for Singe. And he's 3 kills in a blue buff. I'm like, oh man, Impact's never gonna be able to play. And then like you said, then he gets solo killed by him. Like he was sitting on so much gold and hadn't spent, and then he just gets solo killed by him.
He also had Spellbook, which, you know, if he had a combat rune like Conqueror or like literally anything that's not Spellbook, he probably would have been better off.
It's true. But something that was really crazy from the series to me was also just Busio's play, right? Like their comeback in this game too, but also just throughout the whole series. That play around top lane where he actually gets the kill onto APA, the shutdown on APA, where it's like Masu is harassing him. APA was trying to recall from top lane, or I guess it was bot lane, but like over by their base. And he's like warded out, so he gets stopped by a Deadly Flourish. Then Masu ults and is like slowing him down. It's like, but APA got away. He's at 20%. And Busio, you know, portals in and like Q flashes him, autos him, whatever, kills him, barely lives, stays around in the fight with like 10% health over the wall, then gets a stun that sets up a seismic shove for Quad, which gets a second kill, then goes over, still at incredibly low health, hits an ult onto Jan, and then is able to like, you know, get a stun onto Jan as he like magic portals away and Jan follows him. He stuns him, gets that kill too. Like that sequence was actually insane. From the position that they were in, where they're down a ton of gold, they're getting sieged on. It looks like the game is lost. He kills the 13 kill APA. He like catches their carry, like stuns up. I can't remember if it was Yuji or Impact for the seismic shove. Gets that kill. Like he was just styling on everyone. Then goes into game 3. And we were talking about Renata before the show as well, how I feel like Renata is crazy in some of these games, but most people won't really play it. The first three for TL in that game was Renekton, Annie, Kaisa. All you can do is dive. And Renata headshots this so hard. And he goes Renata, and it was just like, all right, it's wraps. And I feel like he is just playing so well this split. It's funny because the split is like, this feels like playoffs, but it's technically part of a regular season. So for MVP and All-Pro and everything, this counts, right? Where normally best of fives don't. So I feel like Busio is actually putting himself into a position where I think he's a legitimate candidate for MVP, because I feel like Inspired has had a couple games that were not to his level. He's still obviously playing fantastically. I still think he's the best jungler. He still should be in the running for MVP. But I feel like Busio is putting himself in there. And to me, this guy has just been getting better and better. I feel like he's clearly the best support in the West. Even his Karma game, it felt like he was just everywhere, landing redemptions on people, like being so annoying and forcing them to spend spells on him because he's playing in their face with tethers, like right on the line the whole time. I don't know, man. It's just been super impressive to watch him.
Yeah, Busio's been really, really good. And he also just has he has such good energy. It's so always cool to listen to his interviews and stuff, because it's just like he seems to genuinely be having fun and like has somehow no ego despite like playing so well. You know, he's just looking to improve. So yeah, definitely a big fan of that. I also really like the Lucian build in that game 3, because I'm starting to think Kraken Slayer might just be the sauce on maybe everybody.
Blasting people.
Yeah, because when we were seeing that, I was like, wait, Kraken Slayer Lucian? Like, you're not going to have mana to do anything. But he was doing so much damage. It was like really insane.
Ever since they buffed it, what was it, like 2 patches ago or whatever, I just feel like Kraken Slayer, I've been trying to fit it on like any champs, or like even go specifically to play champs that play Kraken Slayer. I played a Master Yi game because they had special case previous to this. Kraken Slayer stacks don't stack up on Alpha Strike, but then last patch they took it off and they're like, okay, let's, they're trying to like do their shake up the meta thing, and then so they unspecial cased it, and it does so much damage. They're instantly putting it back in next patch. I got a game win on it though, and I Alpha Striked, and it took like it literally you get to hear the noise, and I was like, oh, it feels good. Boop, 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 and it took someone down like.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the top 3 junglers right now, it's Kindred, Yi, Bel'Veth. And they're all rushing Kraken Slayer. It was because like it is the most insane one item spike. It's like, the proc itself, it does more damage when you're low, and it's like several autos worth of damage. So good item, and it was cool to see the Lucian make it work, because like both Lucian games this we can actually like he popped off extremely hard, which it's been interesting seeing like the evolution of Lucian, because for a while it was like he was just like the Nami guy, right? It was like you just have him to enable Nami stuff or like do some weird execute synergies, and now it just seems like he's just a solid champion independently.
First, like he branched out to Braum, and people were like,
Melio
okay, so you don't have, well, Melio was like the first one. They're like, all right, it's Nami and Melio, they're like the very similar enchanters, and then they're like, ooh, this Braum combo is really good too. And then people were like, well, then we had like a Lucian Rel game, right? And like now like
playing Lucian
Renata, and you're like, all right, he can have whatever lane partners he wants.
I mean,
not Senna. Apparently, Lucian Senna, despite the lore, it's just never going to be a remote.
That one, that one feels.
That is
bad.
one of the worst lanes.
The PTA plus Kraken procs were so crazy, and as much as the story coming into this series was like, if they're going to win, Jan has to carry, right? That kind of thing, because it had been, and pretty much all the pro players I talked to agree and say that the same is kind of true in scrims, that it's like it's TL's bot lane or nothing. Masu was gapping Jan. I felt like he was really playing well, and especially in this Lucian game, this final game, where he like forces out, like in that they were both mid lane, they were by themselves, and he forced out his flash and his ult, and then he came back and he immediately like gets a kill on him, like solo kills in mid lane. He was going crazy on the Lucian. It was definitely that last game that felt as impossible almost as the game for Cloud9 against Shopify in that game 3. Like I felt like they super headshot them in draft. You're playing this comp that can only go forward. Renekton, Annie with the Rel and Kaisa in bot lane, and you have Viego in jungle, and you're playing into like Maokai, Orianna, Cassante, Renata. Like, like that is crazy. Like the whole object of this comp is to one-shot someone and get resets for Viego, but there's bailout, and then your whole team is hit by Maokai roots and hostile takeover and everything. It's like brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I think FlyQuest does deserve credit for drafting in a way that I think made it really hard for Yon to carry, because every single game, Boosty was on a range support, and the AD carry picks that Yon was playing were not really like, hard carries. He was Corki, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, who are either like a combination of weak early and they don't necessarily peak that hard, while Masu's playing, Yunara, Jin, and what was it? Game 3? It was Lucian. Right. We were just talking about that. Yeah, so I think FlyQuest, they just kind of did their thing. It's what everyone expected, but it was fun.
How did you guys feel about Impact? Because I thought Impact had some better moments, at least. He did get solo kills, I think, in both the first and the second game, if I'm recalling correctly. The first one you can call kind of fraudulent if you want, because like Bubba was interrupting his TP, and then he killed him after it. But the second one, even from a disadvantage, he got some kills. The Gwen game, he had like 10 kills or something, didn't he, if I'm recalling correctly? So I felt like he at least had some brighter moments. And Yuji in the Vi game, especially, despite getting invaded on and having all this weird stuff happen, he actually made a lot of really good plays happen on quad and like attacking their side lanes and picking up Whippo a bunch and stuff on the Vi. So I was at least feeling like, okay, I feel like I'm seeing some stuff here. Like clearly FlyQuest is just better, so it's maybe not going to work, but it felt like it was giving me some hope for their lower bracket run.
Yeah, I think they definitely showed improvement. I think it kind of felt like Whippo was for funning a little bit in some of those. Like he was just kind of, especially like on Cassandre, he was just dying for no reason. The one where they swapped into him and then he gets away and then just walks up again and dies. It's like literally for no reason. When I saw it, I'm just like, like that was a weird thing to do. If Whippo does sometimes, but it didn't really seem to hurt the game too much. So I mean, I think Impact's definitely like not been having his best year or whatnot, but I don't think this series was like they lost because of him or anything like that.
Yeah, I felt like this wasn't like more strikes against him. My faith is not like back or anything for him. I still think I'm like I go into matches now a bit worried for him. I think that trepidation is probably still going to be there. But
when there have been a lot of negatives, a neutral is positive.
Yeah, exactly. We're
adjusting.
Yeah. And for the Whippo one, it's kind of funny too, because when FlyQuest are just like winning all their games and stuff, and we're like, okay, yeah, well, he did that, but they didn't lose. But if I remember back, like that was one of the criticisms, like when they were actually losing some, that Whippo is like those moments are definitely some of the things that people are first to pick apart with this team. And whenever we feel so settled in our number one team, which I feel like we have been for a while now, I think it is time to start like really looking at what are going to be the things to pick apart for this team for the possible upsets, and see if it actually if we have a team that can do that here in playoffs.
Yeah, I mean to me the things to pick at right now are the solo lanes for FlyQuest. I think quad has not been as good this split. Just straight up hasn't been as good. And Bubbo is always up and down, right? Like you never know what you're gonna get with Bubbo. He could have the most monster carry performance you've ever seen in your whole life, and then the next game he could be totally trolling. But that's kind of what you get with him, which is why I think originally people were assuming they were bringing in Gatghost to try to get someone who's more stable or whatever. But we are gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be right back after these messages.
Ready, set, go!
I'm at 47%.
Oh, I'm on 63%.
Man, I'm at 50%. Boom! 80%. Winner! The Kia EV9 can go from 10% charge to 80% charge in just 24 minutes with DC fast charging.
Welcome back to the Dive, driven by Kia. It is now time to preview the Week 5 matchups. We've got the Disguise versus Dignitas rematch, as well as Lion versus 100 Thieves. So where do you guys want to start?
I want to start
with versus Dig.
Okay, I was going to go the other way, but go ahead.
I got it first.
Rock, paper, scissors for it.
I got it first. Nope. We already decided
You're gonna
it.
deny
It's a
him?
fun game.
Well,
Yeah.
like I have no reason.
All right,
rock, paper, scissors, coward?
No,
Are you intimidated by his rock, paper,
I have all the
scissors
leverage
prowess?
here.
What's really funny is that we have done rock, paper, scissors a couple times for random caster stuff of like, oh, you have to go in and check the headsets or whatever. Between me, Jat, and Azael,
did I lose every time?
for the analyst spot, and Azael lost every single time in our 3-way rock, paper, scissors.
Well, and the first one was like we tied 6 times in a row or
Yeah.
something like that. But I don't really care because it was more fun. My manager afterwards was like, you weren't gonna have to go in, right? I was like, I don't care. It was like, it was fine.
And that one was the most funny because we literally, we tied all. I think we did all rock probably like 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
But I just went like full Pepega and kept going more rock. And it was like whoever's the first one to change is gonna lose. And
I think it was like 4 times around. I was like, well, surely this time when I go scissors and they're both still rock. I'm like, what the hell?
Anyways, go ahead, videos.
Yeah, well, I just think DSG versus Dig is a good one to preview because I think this game's really hard to predict because, I mean, last time they played it felt like, I predicted Dig and it seemed like they should have won, but they seem to have lost their mind in the first game and never really brought it back from that. So, I don't know. I mean... I guess I just have to go DSG on this one.
I think DSG are better. I thought that they were going to win last time. And yeah, obviously it wasn't super clean. I mean, they're like the bottom 2 teams right now. I did feel like they were playing better. I think Rahel is actually a pretty big upgrade for the team. And he is a difference maker for sure. I mean, my biggest question mark for DSG really is just... I would say, I mean, there's not like it's the only about him, but XU I feel like is so inconsistent, and XU just feels like he does not wait for the game to come to him. He always wants to be the one starting things, and I think that does kind of backfire quite often. But I do think that Rahel really has been a pretty big bright spot for this team. And while I don't think Disguise is about to make a run for the trophy or anything like that, I do think they are better than Dignitas now. And I've also been hearing in scrims that they've been doing a lot better. So I feel like this team is building a little bit of momentum. And though it's probably still going to be a close series because I don't think DSG is like clean enough to like ever sweep someone, right? But I do favor them.
I want to give props to Dark Wings because
Prop them up.
I definitely agree that Rahel's like an upgrade. People were really way more unsure about Dark Wings and the announcement for this signing. I think even us on the last episode when we were, or the episode before this matchup, we were discussing, is this going to be one of the matchups where Caney gets to, kind of return to form and look really good versus another mid laner again? But Darkwings had some very, very good games, some super stable games, like the first game, the Ziggs game. Also his Talia game, and
just, squint and don't look at that Malzahar game.
Yep.
That was crazy. You know what? I think
Malzahar pick is you blame that on the pick, and you're like,
Coach Gap.
It is the pick.
I think he did it to spite Pobelter. So Darkwing was actually on the team that knocked Near Airport out of the playoffs in the first split, and then Pobelter and Doublelift had a $1,000 bet if anyone was going to pick Malzahar this year. Because during his mid lane climb, like right in the beginning, he was like, isn't Malzahar like a really OP champion? Like, why does nobody play him? And then Phil was just laughing at him, saying, like, nobody's ever going to pick Malz. It's terrible. Granted, BDD did already pick it before this. And so Doublelift won the bet. But I think maybe Darkwings didn't know that, and he just wanted him to lose the bet again. Because that Malzahar looked so unbelievably useless. Like, my lord, that was a horrible pick.
It's a pick problem, not a player problem,
Yeah, but I definitely...
Just blame your junglers. I picked Malzahar, and my jungler never ganked.
Well, what the heck?
If I'm picking Malzahar, my jungler's coming mid, or we are FFing. It's one of the two things.
Yeah, I guess it's go next.
Jungle Gap.
Yeah, it not a great game, but
the other game
I was expecting Caney. Like the reason I went Dig is because I thought Caney was gonna at least look good against Darkwings, but he didn't even look good against Darkwings. I don't know what's going on with Caney. He has really, I mean, either just he's like the worst mid in the league, or something is preventing him from playing to his level because he's not shown that he can really match up with anybody. He's been having like a lot of really sketchy games. So I'm not a believer. I'm a Caney doubter at this point, and I think I got to go DSG just because, like you were mentioning, I think that Castle and Rahel are both very good, and then I think Darkwings, obviously he's like pretty fresh, but he's shown some promise. I think like he could be good, right? I think coming into a bottom team as an inexperienced player, I think it's just extremely hard to look good.
Yeah,
but I think he's done better than expected. And then, yeah, I agree with what you said about XQ. I don't think he's looked great. And then I think Huhi is kind of suffering from the issue that a lot of players have when they're put kind of like thrusted into a leadership role, where I think that if Huhi was just slotted into like a really, really good team and he didn't have to shot call people and he could just do his own thing, he would do really well. But I know that he is someone that's like very opinionated about how to play the game. And so being on a team like Disguise, he probably like takes a lot of it on himself to try to like, worry about what all of his teammates are doing and like can't focus as much on his own performance. Cause I've been in a situation like that. I've seen tons of players get in those situations where your own performance falls off hard as hell when you're like trying to worry about what everyone else is doing and whatnot. So I think Huhi's kind of in that spot lately on this team where it's like, I don't think he's looked great, but I think he is a solid player and he's just kind of like spreading himself too thin, trying to shot call and all that stuff. So I do think that DSG like at least looks better than Dig.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes though, then unexpected, rematch reverse comes in. We can get a Dignitas Uno card and turn everything upside down again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Photon, has been solid. I feel like Tomo has been pretty solid. I think that like Shaden can have some good games and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to point to one specific spot on Dig and say that kind of like I really trust them to get it done, I guess.
And even past individuals, I feel like they're playing okay in some of these early games. I think I even said this last time, but like I feel like they even play like okay, but then when something goes wrong, I feel like they're just instantly like, it's the game is bricked or whatever, and everybody's just going off crazy, and they're just like get instantly tilted. I don't know if it's like instantly tilted or if they're like go into panic mode or something, and they start like making super risky plays, and they're like, there was that like the Otacon one where everybody's going off in different directions, and like you got your jungler chasing up the AD carry over there, he loses that one, and then somehow they're chasing XU into the back of the dragon pit, and XU makes it all the way around and they like steals the Otacon, and you're just like, what in the hell is going on, guys? Like after that one, you gotta sit everyone down and be like, yo, focus up. Like literally we have two people that were still burning down the Otacon while our jungler just got killed. And then we no longer have any smite, and then the people chasing their jungler went off, and they're just like, whoa.
Yeah, that was like one of the worst plays that has probably happened all season for sure. That was so crazy. I don't know, like the sounds of the game too. When we listened to Tomo's comms,
he literally was doing that. He was like, whoa, slow down.
He was like yelling. He's like, slow down, like 8 times in a row, and then even after he had some comm that was like, kind of has like some trauma in it where he was like, just wait, like Jesus or something. I was just like, damn, like that's not a comm you want to be making in a playoff match or whatever. So I think they are, if that's how their team's calming, there's not a lot of trust there for sure, and that's kind of a problem. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to root for them. Or maybe not root for them.
You can still root for them.
Hard for them. Hard to expect a lot out of them if it seems like their individual players aren't doing great, and then also their teamwork isn't there. So, yeah, probably DSG.
Yeah, DSG I definitely think is favored. The other one is Lion versus 100 Thieves, and it feels like these teams are kind of on opposite trajectories. 100 Thieves on paper should be a really good team, but it is just clearly not working. And Lion does seem to be getting better and better. People, are so complimentary of their carries as far as how they're playing in scrims. Saint and Henna are both really strong individual players, and the team does feel like they are kind of getting more on the same page. I will say, Surdy presumably is still playing for this coming week. We're assuming. We haven't heard anything otherwise. So he has been doing pretty well, I think, with them. And I feel like Lions and Audieland play pretty well together. So this team does feel like they're just getting better and better, and the carries are strong. So there's no reason that they can't actually make a push up towards the top. A lot of the pros that I have spoken to and interviews and things that I've heard, they think that they were saying that they are the third best team. This was like pre Cloud9 Shopify upset and everything, but everyone I was talking to were like, yeah, Cloud9 and Fly are the best too, but then it's actually Lion, and they just kind of got scammed by their schedule because they had to play TL, who they beat, and then they also had to play Fly and C9. So maybe people's opinions will have changed now that Shopify had the upset and stuff, but this is a team that I think a lot of people were saying was underrated and had a really good chance of making a strong lower bracket run.
Yeah, and I think one of the things why a lot of people were underrating them and in their come up basically is something that was legitimate and was the worry about how are they going to communicate. And we saw like when they first joined the league and stuff, how a lot of the plays were really disconnected. But as time goes on, you kind of are expecting and kind of hoping that like they work out some sort of at least systems for shot calling and communication and get used to playing with each other. And it does seem like they're definitely on that upward trend. So I think the main thing to me is some of the times when Saint gets really far ahead, he really acts like, okay, it's just me. I got a 1v9. But I think even in the moments when you're really far ahead like that, still got to rely on your teammates as far as like setting it up. So like you're the one that's super fed, big carry. So like maybe use one of your teammates as like a body to be in there first to set it up or whatever, so that you can actually pull out the 1v9. And I like just there's some of those extreme moments where I think they actually could have like clutched a few extra games so far this split. But I definitely feel like they are favored here in this matchup because 100 Thieves, it does kind of feel like the kind of opposite thing where putting in Dokla, okay, they're talking about maybe because he's a veteran, it is helping with shot calling, and he's talking about, I can bring some direction to the team, but I definitely don't think it instantly fixes anything, and I haven't really seen it fix anything, so I think the worries are still there for 100 Thieves, kind of similar to what we had previously.
Yeah, I think 100 Thieves looked better with Dokla. Their first game against Shopify, like they looked like a completely different team and they were able to win. The games afterwards, Dokla kind of like went for some super sacrificial plays and just put himself behind the whole game, and it wasn't really looking great. But they've had 2 weeks to practice since then, so I think I like that they put Dokla in. I feel like he's a solid player. Maybe like I don't think he was practicing a ton. He was kind of not planning on playing pro anymore or taking a break.
He's grinding
or something.
solo queue though.
Well, he started again, but there was a period where he like decayed out of solo queue and was thinking about going back to school. So
he has like 1,200 games or something like that. When I checked his solo queue account for this, he said he was playing more than any pro when I talked to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he plays a lot, but I just know that I think it was like between splits. I was chatting with him because we're friends, and he was back in like Massachusetts or whatever, planning to get back to school. So I think he was maybe a little bit rusty for sure. So maybe he's had like 2 more weeks to practice with the team. I think he could look a lot better. And he's up against Surdy, who's like, he's a pretty good player, but he's still pretty new to the scene. So maybe Dokla could run him over.
Big Dokes.
Yeah.
Big Dokes.
I mean, it's interesting. It's sad to realize this could be the last games ever played by 100 Thieves. Right? Because if they lose, they're done in elimination phase. They won't qualify for playoffs, and this is their last split. So this could be the last we ever see 100 Thieves. I mean, it will be unless they win the series, right? And it is a sad way for them to go out if this is how it ends, because there has been like a lot of really good performances from 100 Thieves over the years, like a lot of really fun rosters, and I felt like they were building towards something with this roster, and it felt like they were going to be, improving. And River and Quid had been playing like so insane. And it's interesting because I know that from talking to people, they just feel like it's not just like a team thing issue, because individually, 100 Thieves players don't seem to be playing as well on stage and in scrims, and they seem to be having some kind of like cohesion and direction issues. And maybe it is, I mean, it's hard to know. Maybe it is something where it is kind of like hanging over the players, that it's the end of the org in League of Legends. I know that in interviews, when FBI was asked about it, at least he was saying, it doesn't really feel that different, because like you're always playing for your spot as a pro. You know, like you can, whether it's like on this team or another team, if you play bad, you could just not be signed next year unless they're like, unless you're like Bjergsen or something, right? You kind of like know your spot is going to be safe. But that being said, you have to think that it's weighing somewhat on people's minds. It is a lot of extra pressure. So I don't know. I mean, it's just sad if this is how it ends, because 100 Thieves, I feel like this roster is looking the worst it's ever looked. And they have not been very promising this split, right? They've been struggling against kind of everyone. I mean, Palfox said he thought they were the worst team in the league. I've heard that from a few different players, that as far as even in scrims and stuff, they think they're the worst team in the league, which is just so weird. When I saw them get FBI and when I saw this team, I was like, maybe they could be a threat for the title. Like maybe they could be a threat against these top teams if they could really bring it all together. So this is kind of their last opportunity to try to make something happen and to try to turn this season around and try to have like a bit of a happy ending for their story. So I hope that they are able to to put out some good games, because it's just crazy to think that this could be the end, and like that's the note that it would be ending on.
Yeah, I mean they were like, I think number 1 in the first split going into playoffs. And so like obviously they've done well, like they know how to win games, but like you said, it's kind of been a steep fall off since then. They just kind of, something has happened with this team where they don't play that well together. Like their team play is worse than like some of their individuals. So I'm not sure. I maybe Dokla can breathe some fresh life into this team, but I think I would still predict Lion for this one. I think that, like, I don't think Lion is like clear hard favorites or anything, but I think they'll still win this one just because I don't know. I don't know what's going on with 100 Thieves. I think it is hard. Like, there's always that mental pressure of like, when you're on a pro team, it feels like you're building for something, and you want to, anytime there's a problem or whatever, you want to think of long-term solutions so you can like get better as a team, and in the future, you'll have like these memories to pull from. But when your org is going away and you're not going to play with these guys ever again, it's like, it almost feels useless to do that, right? It's like, okay, what's the point, right? Like, why do we care about how to do this? Like, you just go for like Band-Aid fixes, or like maybe you don't even bring it up because you just don't want to deal with an argument or something. So something's definitely gone wrong with them. So I think this might be the last time we see them.
Well, hopefully their practice has been good, and they got a hyperbolic time chamber they've been utilizing during these last couple of weeks, and we get to see them push Lion. Mm-hmm. But I'm also predicting Lion.
Me too. So that's but we've been wrong before. We would have predicted Cloud9,
and we'll be wrong again. Don't you worry.
No, well, I won't.
Okay.
Yeah. But it should
perfect from here on out.
Exactly. That's the standard I'm setting for myself. Lion, definitely the big favorite, so it could be the last hurrah of 100 Thieves. But that is going to wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. You can also check us out on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. The LTA North returns this Saturday, August 23rd at 1 p.m. Pacific. Disguise will be taking on Dignitas. It's the rematch, and we'll see you all there.